Hi, I'm Sueanne Pacheco, and I'm here with David Rogers, celebrating Culture Days. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm very well, Suzanne. Thank you so much for being with us today in celebration of Cultures Days, coast to coast throughout Canada.
So, David, you are an author, a caregiver, a social entrepreneur, an innovator, a speaker, and your book, Get 2020 Vision, touches on a lot of relevant things that people are experiencing today. What are three aspects of mental health that is core to your vision from the book?
All right, great question. Thank you so much, Suzanne. This whole idea of mental health is relatively new to me. When I came back to Canada after being away, traveling and working in Asia, when I came back to Canada, I noticed that mental health was a major issue in Canada, and particularly in three areas: stress, corporate post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression, bipolarism, and different types of mental illness that when I started doing research, there are so many different areas. Yet the three main ones that I would share with you today is stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression.
And which of the three would you feel impacts people the most,
I would
or are they equal?
No, actually, I believe that there is a relationship with stress that has the knock-on effect. And when people have stress, then they react in different ways. They respond in different ways. They get treatment in different ways. They get treated using the various prognostications that are prevalent today. And so depending on the doctor, you could be prescribed with bipolar, you could be prescribed with schizophrenia, you could manic depressant. So then you start getting into the whole drug routine that they're treating the symptom and not necessarily going after the cause. And so what my research suggested, and this research just has not been done in Canada, I've had the privilege and friendships around the world to talk to people in New Zealand and in Singapore and Malaysia and the States, and looking for ways that mental illness, mental wellness dynamic can be explored. And that's really what triggered the choice, and actually in huge gratitude to Tracy Reagan, because she read my old book, Awesome Coaching, and she felt, wow, we should be doing an update to it. And then I said, wow, there's so much mental challenges that people are facing right now. Let's create 5 new chapters and infuse it into the Awesome Coaching book, bring it up to date for 2020. The concept of Get 2020 Vision was very topical, and we looked for ways to assist people no matter where they are right now, whatever they've been diagnosed with and whatever they're being treated for. We came up with another model called Get 2020 Vision, and it's based on gratitude, purpose and passion, and service. And what we found was people who would be really having big challenges with their mental health, if they started to do things a little bit differently and having this process of GPS, they could start to have clearer vision. They could start to do different things. They could start to feel good about themselves. And that's what we found to be a wonderful diagnostic away from the medical or prescriptive medicinal way. We looked for a holistic approach, and it's been amazing what some people have been able to do, explore, and co-create using Get 2020 Vision.
So you mentioned service just now. Why is service important to you?
What we found, and when I talked to psychiatrists, psychologists, spiritual psychotherapists, and many different people who have certification in counseling, in trauma, when one is serving, and this is actually, I got a quote for you today on that, is one of the greatest ways, in fact, where is that quote? Because it's a very cool quote. Wayne Dyer, a gentleman that I loved immensely. And I actually traveled all the way from Singapore to Alaska to hang out with Wayne and his family. And he quoted someone that was quite fascinating because he's been one of my biggest teachers for the last 20 years. And it's a gentleman called Lao Tzu. And Lao
Mhm.
Tzu, one of his quotes, which is one of my favorite quotes, is to know and not to do is not yet to know. I'll let you breathe on that one a little bit. To know and not to do is not yet to know. And so what in wellness and health and vitality, our health and wellness is going to shift as we shift from age 20 to 50 to 75. So the strategy that might have worked when we're 25 might not work when we're 50, probably will not work when we're 75. And so with service, when we put others ahead in a nurturing, caring, loving way, it comes back to serve us. Now, any strength taken to an extreme can become a weakness. So I'm not saying to everybody, go put everyone else in front of you. No, it's about self-care. Yet when you start recovering yourself, you are then going to be in a position to serve others. And that service of others is going to heighten your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and your sense of self. And
Mhm.
when our sense of self increases in service, there's just this beautiful karma that comes into play. And I've been involved in a number of exercises, experiments with people, and I've noticed that when people start to serve others, their recovery, their sense of being, and that GPS, that gratitude, purpose, passion, really starts to assist them get into flow. And the study of flow is a big part of Get 2020 Vision, because in so many of the exercises and the experience that I'm sharing and case studies, it's about helping people find their flow. And that it's not one size fits all, which is apparently one of the biggest challenges we have right now in the education system. It's not one size fits all. In the medical profession, it's not one size fits all. In the happiness industry, it's not one size fits all. It really is about a tailored approach. And so in Get 2020 Vision, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm inviting you to go and explore the gratitude relationship for you. I'm inviting you, and through a couple of exercises that we have, let's explore your purpose. Let's break down what passion means. Let's find ways that you can be of service today. And we'll see how it shifts you and gets you into flow. And I believe that that's a big part of Get 2020 Vision, is about sharing stories, yet also inviting people to explore their relationship with all of their emotions. And that's something that's very exciting. And excitement's also part of helping people get into flow.
So, as your role as a mentor to the people that you are in service with, and as they're working towards their flow, do you feel that a part of that is also the connections that they start to form as part of their healing?
Absolutely. And I'm going to change my screen because we started with Culture Days because we really want to celebrate culture, coast to coast, Canada's culture, even our culture within ourselves. We are such a beautiful cultural mosaic. What are some of your ethnic backgrounds, Sueanne?
For myself personally,
Yes.
oh dear. So I've got East Indian, Black. I don't know if it's Portuguese or Spanish, but one of the two. And I've got Chinese as well. So I come from a mixing pot of many different ethnicities, uh,
And
which,
so thank you, because that's my point, is that most people are a myriad of DNA. And I think some of these DNA tests are very cool because if it can be a bridge, and if it can be a bridge from our head to our heart, if it can be our bridge to being self-caring instead of self-loathing, if it can be a bridge from speaking kindly to ourselves instead of beating ourselves up, we start to really heal. Because in many ways, we're the vessel of all of our ancestors, the 2020 edition. And so we both have ancestors from Europe. We've got ancestors from Asia. And many of our ancestors went through trauma. And so many of these traumas have been passed on through our DNA. And so there's a gap. There's actually in some ways, there's a self-loathing, there's a hate, there's a not good enough. There's records that create these divides. And these divides are often the way that we speak to ourselves when we're in our darkest moments. And so in this book, Get 2020 Vision, I'm looking to build bridges. I'm looking to build bridges from people to experiment with the foods, the cultures, the dancing, the things that might light up their spirit, and to release some of the traumas of the ancestors, and to explore some of the darkness of experiences in life, and be able to perhaps even find the gift from it, the gift of gratitude from experiences that might make no sense, yet when we step into it with gratitude, with appreciation, it can often be very releasing, and trauma can be released like that. And it's quite amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because that is one of the ways that some people will find their healing modality.
So in the book, you talk at very personally and very transparently. And one of the things you raised in the book is new eyes. And so in keeping with what you just mentioned about the records of our ancestors, and in your dissertation of new eyes, what sort of impact does this have in your life today and to those that you have come into contact with?
Well, new eyes is something that I love because it was something that was taught to me when I was in India, and it was something that allowed me to see experiences through the eyes of a 5-year-old who was being bullied, or a 15-year-old who was the bully, or the 25-year-old who stopped the bullying. And so as my life moved and went through different seasons, and right now we're in a beautiful season, yet if you spend some time looking at the seasons, and for today, for the chat with you today, I really thought of 25-year-old blocks. So the 0 to 25-year-old block, a young adult, and then the 25 to 50-year-old, where it moves into the adventure of adulthood, and then to the 50 to 75-year-old, where it moves into the mentoring role, and then the 75 to 100 years old, where it's really about the wise elder. And just look at that as 4 different types of seasons. And those seasons of, can you imagine looking at life? Again, this is what's beautiful. Looking through new eyes can mean looking at it from a wise perspective, or it can be looking at it from a cheerful, playful perspective. And who's in charge of that? Well, you are. And you can look at it through the eyes of being a victim. You can go into blame. You can make excuses. You can doubt yourself. Those tend to be the energies of a victim. Or you can look at it through the eyes of a victor, where you can look at it through ownership. It's your life. Accountability to your family, your friends, if you choose, and responsibility, the ability to respond. So that's one way to look at life, is above the line or below the line, as a victor or as a victim, as a co-creator, or again, somebody who's always beaten up. And so that little way of looking things through new eyes, for some people, could change their life just like that. If you start to see all of the records that go on in your head about blame, blaming others, never taking responsibility, and you just decide that you're going to change the dialogue that you have with yourself. You're going to change what you see, what you say, what you feel, what you think. Some people say, oh, that's so hard. Well, actually, it's very simple if you're willing to let go.
Mm. So we go through various transitions, as you just mentioned, the different seasons, stages in our lives. So why in your book you state that a thought can shift a person's belief?
Well, personally, I had that experience, is that I used to have a belief. And in fact, the belief was, life's a bitch, then you marry and then you die. And I used to say that not once, yet hundreds of times a day. So can you see how those filters, that filter, would influence my relationship with women? It would influence my relationship with belief about relationships. And so I knew that that phrase was destroying my life. I was never going to connect with somebody and perhaps start a family. And it was funny, I stopped it. And it wasn't easy because I had said it so much, it became really ingrained in my brain as a pattern, as a record. And when I first started changing it, it was like, life's a, life's a, life's a, and I actually consciously played with it until the record got scrambled, scratched, until I started to say, whenever it came up, life's a beach. Life's a beach. And now whenever I look at a beach, I laugh. I actually smile that life is a beach. And I don't use the word bitch in my vocabulary because it can have triggering effects. And that's the thing about our language. Our language has such a power. It has a power of creating spells. It can uplift us if we feel great. It can pull us down if we're saying negative things to ourselves. It has the power, if you think of words and you think of it backwards, it's swords. And these swords can cut your spirit. They can cut your self-confidence. They can cut your self-esteem. And so I'm inviting people to really be precise with their words. Be curious with their words. Invite nice, healthy, kind words, especially when you don't want to do it. That's such a key component.
So would you say that because you are an author, writing has been a way of channeling some of those experiences and energies that you were experiencing?
Well, let's say that yes. And then let's say the next screensaver is something that if I would have been asked, yes, because I am an author, I am a published author, and it's a lot of fun to be an author going through. Yet now I can actually start to say, I'm even an artist. And that
okay,
really
so
makes
in
me
that
laugh.
regards, can you share with us some of your creative writing that you may be doing?
Well, this is something, thank you so much for asking, because again, this is about one of the biggest things that will change your life. And for folks that are watching this today, if you're taking any notes or you're taking any words of that you might be able to apply, this one word could change your life. And it changed my life. And I wrote a little piece here about 21 ways to experience breathing. So it's breathe and notice the calm. Breathe and feel connected. Breathe and say, ah. Breathe, smile, and say yes softly. Breathe and release a sense of hurt. Breathe and pump your fist and say yes aloud. Breathe, think funny thoughts and giggle. Breathe and send gratitude to your best friend. Breathe and express appreciation to someone. Breathe and welcome new beginnings. Breathe an inner smile and say thank you to your beloveds who have passed on. Breathe and have a little kind chat with your maker. Breathe and extend your spine. Imagine an imaginary string is extending the crown of your head to the ceiling. Breathe and let go of an old scar of regret. Breathe and surrender to your genius. Breathe and think of cute puppies or kittens and say, ah. Breathe and send energetic, caring hugs to a former lover or friend. Breathe and imagine peaceful spooning with your favorite friend. Breathe and say, wow, as you see an incredible sunrise. Breathe and step into your bravery. Breathe and feel an inside-out hug as you witness a sunrise that inspires a deep sense of awesomeness. Breathe and feel ready to sleep. Breathe and be inspired to eat nutritiously. Breathe and do 50 squats.
It's really good. Thank you so much for that. So I feel it's what you just shared with us was about being kind to yourself and do things that are kind for you and good for you.
Healthy, nutritious, delicious. These are words that, again, if you're bringing it into your vocabulary and into your mindset and into your body and into your vitality, it's a really fantastic way to build your immunity. I recently did a chat with a wonderful therapist on boosting your immunity. And what I've just shared is 21 ways to boost your immunity. And so I'm inviting people to look for ways to boost your immunity, because in today's environment, your vitality is your responsibility. Finding ways that it uplifts you. There is a strategy there. And the book, Get 2020 Vision, again, the whole idea was to bring ways that you could use in your life. And again, if you then decide to share it with friends, experiment it, share some of the winning strategies, that's what it really is a series of winning strategies that have worked for me, has worked for coaching clients, mentoring clients, businesses, mental health practitioners, and also folks who are suffering from some mental illness at the time. And mental illness is one of those things that I do believe all of us will experience different types of mental illness throughout our life. And so I want to celebrate it as a way to learn, as opposed to belittle it or put it down or smash people for it. It's about honoring the journey of people. And many people will go through the tough times, or as Joseph Campbell likes to say, the hero's journey or the shero's journey. We celebrate some of the sheroes that have gone through really difficult times and come out of it with superpowers. And so I'm inviting anyone today who might be going through a tough time with COVID or their finances or their health. If you go and practice some of these little suggestions of nutrition, vitality, prayer, you go and do some journaling, you do some poetry, you do some drawing at the back there like that, it may connect you to yourself, which may assist with the perseverance and the persistence and a beautiful word that was introduced to me again, tenacity, to see yourself through the journey and to come out the other side with some really amazing new superpowers.
Okay, and what you mentioned uplifting. So what uplifting things are you doing currently, and what's next after Get 2020 Vision?
Well, actually, I wrote it down. So let me just see if I can take a quick peek here. Oh, yes. The Get 2020 Vision is just not about year 2020. It's about having clarity on purpose, passion, about your ikigai, about the inner things that you really would like to do. Yet, when you write a book like this, you go down some rabbit holes and you can stay in there for a little while. The one that I went down was the 5 stages of grief, or 5 energies around grief, and denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And I went and I loved the process of going through some interviews of people who have recently had beloveds or loved ones pass over or die. And there's a grieving process that is something that does bring in compassion and patience, curiosity. And so I really enjoyed the process of studying the grief process. And now what's been invited to me is men's heartbreak. And so I have a feeling the next chapter is going to be working with men who haven't figured out ways to get through heartbreak. And in my research, I've noticed that there's a number of specific examples of men's heartbreak that knocks them out of their flow. And they really go into a realm of depression and a realm of suicide.
Mm.
And right now, the number of men committing suicide daily, the statistics are so understated, and it's a global epidemic. And I have a feeling that some of the work that I've reached out to some doctors and some nurses and some healthcare practitioners and some mentors and some healthcare professionals who are really into a creative space, that we can introduce them to some approaches that may allow them to feel connected instead of disconnected, may them feel worthwhile and worthy of a life. And if they can go and start to see things through new eyes, if they can start to connect to their inner artist, their inner creator, some of these people that right today are thinking about suicide may decide to be of service. Yet it will be a process that they have to serve themselves first, and then they may be of service to others. So I have a feeling that's where Get 2020 Vision is moving, directing, guiding me. And it's been a beautiful experience, because some of those pictures behind me wouldn't have been drawn if without culture days, without creativity, without friends to encourage, and without the new eyes to say, yeah, it actually looks pretty good. So,
So we're coming down to the final few minutes of our
thank you.
interview today. Where can they get your book, David?
Well, thank you for asking that. It's on Amazon. It's in Amazon. I think that's probably the best place to check these days. Get 2020 Vision on Amazon. And if you want to reach out for some other opportunities to talk, to speak, to communicate with groups, it's been beautiful for me. Many people don't like what's happened in COVID. My personal experience has been C for compassion, O for optimism, V for vitality, I for intuition, and D for discipline. And so that's been my record with COVID. I'm also aware that some people have been really finding it difficult because they've chosen that D is for difficult. And if we can weave a new story for people, I'm really looking forward to share some stories, yet also invite people to create a new story for their life. And that's very possible using Get 2020 Vision, the GPS system, and some wonderful breath techniques would be a start. And I really, truly believe that it could assist people. So if you want to connect, you would love an opportunity to work with a group, students to elderly. My year has been focused on elderly. Yet what's been beautiful with that is I've replaced a lot of the myths about the elderly, because I've been finding the elderly incredibly creative, incredibly lively, incredibly hilarious. And that's been my experience with the elderly this year, which I don't think very many people have been saying that. Yet maybe they want to hear some stories of some elderly people that are doing some amazing things.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And thank you for sharing your time with us.
A big shout out to Dolly, who's bringing digital awareness and Facebook Live and all the technology to Singapore as a senior, helping seniors. And that would be an example of somebody who's just doing some amazing things.
Great. Thank you
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, your energy. Great questions today. And thanks again to all of the friends at Culture Days who have made this possible.